At every event and in almost every article about Ghost Recon Wildlands, we've been hearing and seeing that it will have one of Ubisoft's biggest open worlds created so far. And although that may sound very promising, the line itself, one of the biggest, was still a bit vague to me, and I wanted to know what to expect from this game when it comes out early next year. So, over the course of this week, I've been keeping myself busy with figuring out just that. How big is the map from end to end, and how does that compare to maps from other games that I previously played, such as The Division, Watch Dogs, GTA 5 and Just Cause 3? And I guess today I'm ready to share all the results with you guys, as well as taking you through the process of actually figuring this out. Let's begin! Searching the internet, there were only two things that I could find about the map for Wildlands. We first had this image of the deluxe edition, which would give anyone a real-life version of the in-game map. And then the second thing that I found is this short clip of the takedown mission on El Pozolero. They have one of those cinematic zooms on the map to show the location of the enemy. I also looked through a lot of gameplay from several news sites and YouTubers that got to play the demo of the game at E3, but no one seemed to open the map in the game or even talks about it, so my best guess is that it's something that they weren't allowed to show or talk about yet, or that it simply wasn't in the demo. Of course, the first step in the process was to find out if this map that you would get with the deluxe edition was actually a legit in-game map as we see it right here. I mean, the game is still not going to be out for quite a long time, so for all we know, this is just something that is a lookalike placeholder and not something that actually represents the final product. The short clip from the El Pozolero takedown zooms in on a place called San Machero, which indeed can also be found on the in-game map right here. And looking at them both and comparing them, I mean, it does seem to check out. You have this big lake, you have the same islands in the lake, you have the same snowy mountains in the background with the same crater in there as well. And of course, do take in mind that the camera in the short clip is coming from the east side, so of course the perspective is going to be a little bit different. Keeping in mind that the map was at least somewhat accurate, I wanted to search a little bit further. Knowing the location of the players, I checked to see if the roads in the game actually lined up with the roads on the map. If that were to be the case, then of course I could be pretty confident in saying that this map is actually legit and that I could use it to figure out the size of the game. First thing we see in this gameplay clip is this camera moving down from the sky to the player. This camera is located on this spot on the map. From here on out, we can start comparing these roads. You have the three-way junction made out of gravel road, which can indeed be seen back on the map right here, indicated in white. Behind that, you have more gravel road making up another three-way junction. Again, this shows on the map as well, only the color of the road is yellow instead of white this time. And in the far distance, you can actually see a very straight concrete road, almost like a highway. And this can also be seen back on the map right here in orange. To finish it up, there's also the barn-like building right next to the highway that players in the E3 demo got to play around when trying to capture the boss. That building is located right here on the map. Now, it's actually a pretty good thing that we can see this barn, because that gives us another perspective at these roads while keeping the whole area connected. First up, behind the barn, you can see that same concrete road again in a very straight line heading north. But you can also see that the road has a very sharp right turn on the other side, which then leads drivers in a curve up these mountains. And you probably already guessed it, but this can also be seen back on the map, although it is a little bit harder to spot because there's a picture on top of it that is covering up the road. But I think we can both agree on the fact that these two roads are connected. I could keep going and going on and mapping out every single location that we see in every single gameplay bit, and I could keep boring you with more examples, but the bottom line is, the thing that I'm on about, is that it is safe to say that this map is pretty much as accurate as you're going to get it. Now, I could get started working with this thing. What I needed to do next is find an in-game distance between 2 points that I would then be able to put on the map. And although in the gameplay clips you have all these markers all over the place of how far a certain enemy is or how close you are to a teammate, finding a good scale is actually a lot harder, because in a lot of the cases there's also a height difference between the player and the objective. And that means that the distance increases by a lot. Not to mention that of course two players standing in the middle of a field will not really give us a precise indication. After searching for a long while though, I found what I was looking for in the 15 minutes of footage uploaded by GameSpot. In their playthrough, they are quite slow when it comes down to chasing the target to the gas station, which then results in the enemy arriving at their destination before they can really take off themselves. And because of that, we get to see the distance between this small holdout area where the boss is, the wrench thing, and then the gas station, and they are about 500 meters away from each other. When looking at the map, we can pinpoint both of these locations. This is where the initial holdout area is, where the boss spawns, and this is where the gas station is. Now that means that a straight line between these two locations, that represents 500 meters in the game. This right here is 500 meters. Now, one could say that from this point on, you can just repeat this line from top to bottom to see how many times the 500 meters fits into the map. And although that may work in other scenarios, it doesn't really work right here, with the main reason being that this map is seen at a pretty big angle, so it would be very difficult to accurately scale each line that represents 500 meters. And also, the map has been folded a bit, and that also adds to that distortion. So before we could just, repeat the 500 meters until we get to each ends, we had to straighten out the map, which honestly, it sounds very difficult, but it's actually very, very easy. I was lucky enough that this picture also had the image of another map on it. This was very important because, of course, if I wanted to straighten out the map, I had to have some sort of reference, and this is what I used. I basically distorted the perspective of the image so that the front of the folded map looked as straight as possible. To get this as accurate as possible, I used the Ghost Recon Wildlands logo that you can see on the front, and matched that with a logo that I downloaded online. Whenever these two logos would match up perfectly, that would mean that I got the scale just right. On the picture, you can also see that the map has been folded twice horizontally and 3 times vertically. So, after I got this picture to be straight, I had to copy and paste it 11 times and put them next to each other to lay out the map's skeleton. To finish it off, I simply divided each of the folds of the open map into different parts and then projected them on the map's skeleton. The result is a very, very blurry, yet near to 100% accurate representation of the map. And although through the stretching and the distortion of all the pixels, most things on the map become unreadable, that is completely fine, because all we need this map for is that so we can put down that line that represents 500 meters and then push it to the top, copy and paste it downwards until we reach the bottom and determine how big the map really is. Now, because I was able to fit in 27.5 of these green lines, that means that the map is around 13.75 kilometers across vertically. Horizontally, the map seemed to be a bit larger. I was able to fit in 28 of these lines, meaning it is 14 kilometers across, which was a bit surprising to me. I thought it was going to be a perfect square, but this difference on the two axes could easily be the result of two things. It could either be because the map is not a perfect square and the developers just found it very convenient to have a little bit of extra space on the x-axis, but it could also be because, of course, this whole thing that I'm doing right now isn't going to be pixel perfect. You're not going to get an exact number of how big this map is down to the centimeter. So for what it's worth, you should give or take a few hundred meters on either axis of this map. But with that being said though, it still does put the map at almost 200 square kilometers of playground. That is quite big. And of course, after I figured this out, I wanted to compare it to some of the other games that I played, for example, The Division. So I loaded up the game, I set a waypoint 200 meters away from my character, and you're probably asking right now why 200 meters and not 500? And that is because in The Division, going beyond the 200 meter mark will make the game display distances in decimals of kilometers, which, isn't always accurate enough. But after I got that line, I put it on the map, I increased the length by 2.5 and lined up the two lines to match sizes. The results? Well, just take a look for yourself. Yeah. Of course, given that The Division does not have vehicles and takes place in the middle of a big city that is designed around cover-to-cover gameplay, this comparison isn't very fair. So, in addition to The Division, I quickly grabbed two other games that I could think of, with the first one being Watch Dogs and the second one being GTA 5, both having vehicles and one of them being known for having quite a big map. I repeated the same thing in those games as I did in The Division. I put a waypoint, this time 500 meters away from my character, I noted it down on their respective maps and then scaled up the maps until the lines matched each other. Both results quite took me by surprise. First up was Watch Dogs, which wasn't even a match, to be honest. I guess this was to be expected, as Watch Dogs of course takes place in a mid-city environment, which takes a lot longer to create than mountains and stuff like that. But even GTA 5 doesn't come close. If you take away the ocean, the GTA 5 map easily fits 2.5 times into the Wildlands map. Maybe even close to 3 times if you were to space it out a little bit more efficient. So yeah guys, the map is big, but I gotta break it to you because it's also not like anything we haven't seen before. Out of curiosity, I also booted up Just Cause 3, which is a game, of course, also well known not only for its destruction, but also for its incredible map size. And just as with the other games, I did the same test there. I put my waypoint 500 meters away from my character. Of course, made sure that there wasn't a height difference. I put the line on the map and then scaled the map until the line matched up with the other lines. And while playing, I kinda already saw it coming, but compared to the giant that is Just Cause 3, the Wildlands map still does not really stand a chance. The Just Cause map remains the king. Now, I know what everybody is commenting down right now. I mean, there are many other games with a much larger map or maps that have a way bigger size than anything on this list. But before you're gonna list out every game on Steam that has a bigger map than this, I want you to know that the point of this video is not to do a test for every game and see who comes out ahead. No, the point of this video is that so you guys, and of course I myself, know a bit more what to expect from Ghost Recon Wildlands. Knowing that the map is almost 200 square kilometers in size, that is a lot more helpful than saying it is one of Ubisoft's biggest open worlds. Although, to be fair, they basically come down to the same thing. What I'm looking forward to right now is how they're going to be filling up this map. Will there be enough to do? Will we have enough variety in missions? Do the different environments actually change the gameplay that much? Does the world feel alive enough? Those are all things that will determine our overall experience with this game and will be much more important than the actual raw size of it. But I can't really answer those questions, at least not right now. All we can do is just wait for more information, and thus that is going to be all for today. As always, I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, I guess I will see you guys later, or like they say, in the Netherlands. See you later!